It's Colin MacIntyre, Mull Historical Society here. I'm going to read from my new novel for you right now. This is the first in a new Mull Mysteries Crime series. It's called When the Needle Drops. It looks a little bit like this. As you imagine, it's set on the Isle of Mull, where I'm from, and the island really continues to provide inspiration for me creatively in many forms. But this is the first in a new crime series, and it features the detective Sergeant Ivor Punch, who some of you might be aware was a character in my debut novel, The Letters of Ivor Punch. So there's a big piece of Mull folklore, big mystery, which in reality is still unsolved. It's called the Great Mull Air Mystery, and I have written a fictional account of that, and Ivor's trying to kind of solve it. There's lots of other folklore, threads of storyline, mannequins appearing, effigies appearing through the book as well. And it's not in the usual format where there's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It's track 1, track 2, all the way through. There's a side A and side B. The reason for this is there's a lot of music, maybe unsurprisingly, in the book, but also Ivor loves vinyl. He loves kind of pouring a glass of Tobermory malt at the end of the night, and a little Bosch like in LA, but this is Ivor and Tobermory, listening to the Faces, early period Rod Stewart. He considers Rod's 80s material a criminal act in itself, and would only play it for his inmates in the cell for the night. So it's out now. It's on Black and White Publishing and Bonnier Books, and I'm going to read for you now. Just to also flag, I have an event coming up Thursday, August 15th at the Edinburgh International Book Festival. Really excited to be back at the festival, and it's a words and music evening where I will be reading from the new novel and doing a signing, but also performing Mull Historical Society songs, and in particular the new album In My Mind There's a Room, which some of you might be aware is a collaboration on significant rooms with lots of my favourite authors, those being Val McDermid. We have Liz Lockhead on the night, James Robertson, and more to be announced. So I'm really excited for that. Hope to see some of you along. One of the writers who's collaborated with me on the new album is Ian Rankin, and I'm really pleased that Ian has given this book a nice endorsement, and in fact has said that Ivor is a detective worth spending some time with, and maybe a dram with too. So I can only dream that Ivor and Rebus one day might share a drink at the Oxford bar. I'm going to dive in now. In this case, it's not the prologue, it's the intro track. Stitching the needle and thread along the flesh of the floppy arms had been less haphazard, less bloody than anticipated. In fact, strangely therapeutic. It was getting between the fingers that was proving tricky. Late on a December night, sitting with the body propped alongside on the couch and the house quiet, save for the Atlantic wind blowing the arse out of bats, it was easy to get lost in the work, in the company. It was strangely comforting to have the body's presence in the sad house. The thought occurred that the gable end might be the first thing the wind had hit in the 3,000 miles. It all added to the sense of significance, of being noticed, of touching and being touched. The pinpricks from the needlework had caused the fabric to stain with blood, a clear sign of rustiness, irritating. That would need to be cleaned up. The final finger on the body was navigated and the thread cut, the needle put aside. The face was not the finest work, but the likeness, certainly to locals, would not be lost on anyone. The length of the arms would seal the deal. It was time now to dress the body. Folding the shorter arm into the uniform jacket gave the illusion of life being blown back into the floppy limbs, of oxygen circulating within, that even the possibility of a conversation was on the cards. There was the devilish thought of propping the limp body up in the armchair opposite and placing the TV remote within its stitched hand, of liberally pouring at a large measure and attacking the glass with ice, or, more ghoulishly, of fastening the torso into the passenger seat and driving it around Tobermory. It had apparently been done by horse and cart in olden times. A headless horse, the legend went. The legs were now folded into the baggy trousers. The impression created was of a Hebridean Charlie Chaplin, minus the cane, without the silent damsel in distress, or a pulse. That was the thing, the giddy excitement, the inverted delectation of giving life to something, of creating movement, of transforming black and white into colour, silence to sound. It all added up to a power more godly than human. That hadn't been expected. There was a sense of reconnecting with one's earlier, more alive self. This was the first one, but it was hard now to imagine it being the last. It was time to stand back and admire the work. Adrenaline arrived like a shockwave, like a new element blowing against the house. There was music playing, which earlier had seemed so urgent, so relevant and all-encompassing, but was now reduced to background noise, instantly forgettable, as though washed across the Atlantic to the wrong port. It was him playing. Had to be. It was time. Time to clean off the blood from the hands, to put a rope around its neck. Hope some of you might enjoy. It's out now in all formats.